Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Short notice on this stream, but we're going to make it a weekly regular event. And I've got my main man, ultimate guy, veteran campaigner. He's running the mayoral election in Liverpool, Paul Rimmer. And
good afternoon, folks.
But over to you, Paul. Anyway, give us some Sunday words, please.
Yeah, sure. It's always been a special day for me, Sunday. Today, when we just sort of relax a bit, isn't it, and reflect on life. And when I was a kid, you know, we went to church. I still go to church when I can myself, although I'm working a lot Saturday night. But I thought it'd be appropriate if we started this stream with just a short prayer in our old Christian tradition. So if you just bow your heads, I'll say a short prayer. I just want to thank God for the creation around us. I mean, I've been looking into my garden this morning, and the butterflies and the birds and the flowers. It's so wonderful, you know, it uplifts your soul. We know that all good things around us are sent from heaven above. So we just thank God for his creation, for the blessing of life. We pray for all those who are sick today, all those who are by themselves, who are lonely. We pray that God will comfort them. And we pray that God will bless us this day. He will bless us with health. He will bless us with strength. And he will bless us with clarity of mind, sanity. The Lord is very clear in his thinking, and we need that in this day and age. There's so much confusion about. So be blessed this Sunday in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, I mean, to start off, I just want to go through an icon of Oldham, which is our central church. I mean, there's so throughout my life, we've had weddings, been to services for funerals, christenings. When the grandkids went to Sunday school, which was this big church Sunday school, I used to take them. I used to participate myself in the singing and encourage the kids to sing and stuff like that. This is me throughout all my life, Paul, even though I don't count myself as a practicing Christian, but the values I have, Church of England values. I went to Sunday school, I went to the Boys Brigade, and these two institutions are heavily linked or by the church and run by the church and funded by the church. So I spent time in these institutions, and obviously the way I've been taught, the way we've learned about things has helped me to develop to become the person I am today. So I could never deny that in myself, could never deny it. And I mean, the grandchildren who live in Oldham still go to Sunday school. And we still go to the church regularly if it's anyone's wedding and stuff like that. So
it's not only the church as an institution, John, it's the people you meet in church. I met some lovely people in church when I was a kid. You know, you hear all the darkness around you. You hear about crime. You hear about corruption. You hear about negative things all the time. And then you go to church and you meet these lovely people. They were lovely old women, and they cared for you. They showed you love. You know, there was no need for them to do that. In many ways, they were strangers till you went to the church. But they were very kind. They were very considerate. I remember our Sunday school, I remember our Bible clubs. And they always had gifts for us. And they always were willing to spend time with us. And I thought these people are different. They've got a different spirit in them. And that gives you hope in life. That gives you, in a sense, a positive outlook on life. That it isn't all just trouble and strife. That there are good things around you. And church always meant that to me. It was always the people. And I used to think to myself as a kid, this was really special. I used to think, what's in it for these people? They're not being paid. They were volunteers. They weren't getting any kudos in society for what they were doing, but it was very sacrificial. They gave their time, they gave their money, they gave their love, and it was just a gift. And I was really blessed by that as a kid. It really stuck with me for my whole life, you know.
So I've got the picture up of our church there, the Church of St Mary with St Peter, mostly known as Oldham Parish Church. And that particular church was built 1700s or 1600s, but there's been a church on that site since 1280.
Wow.
So it certainly is in Oldham a historical Christian site of throughout all the ages.
You know, you said there, John, about that you went to church for funerals, for marriages, for christenings. Well, you just imagine how many people have been baptized in that church or married in that church, or how many people have been, sent to eternity from that church. So the memories of your community are in that church, and the spirits of the people who've lived there. So these are sacred places. These are special places, and it's a beautiful building. And I find them very uplifting, church buildings. You know, I can see this with they call that perpendicular Gothic. See the windows where they shoot over the windows, and the lovely tower. And for me, there's no economic function to it. It just lifts your spirit. It's just something. It's beautiful and it's uplifting.
Like you said, it's generations of families who've been buried or who've been married at that church and stuff like that, and so it's a very central place to the community, which the church is in every town. Is a central place, and I just wanted people to see it. Around the gardens on the outside, we've got the war memorials. When it's Poppy Day, the local junior schools and primary schools in the area, they all make red poppies out of whatever cotton and that little red poppy things. And in front of the church, there's a big a black fencing, and they put the poppies all over the fencing when it's Poppy Week. And so, it's a really central place for all the community. And these are all the local schools that are around it, all the Church of England schools around it who participate in making the poppies and glorifying it up. And it is a lovely area. The church grounds are good. And the story is, when we was at school, which is just about half a mile away from there, we used to have trips to the crypt that's underneath the church. And underneath the church in the crypt was Oldham's tallest man, 7 foot something. I don't remember his exact things, but round the side of it, when we was kids, teenagers, we noticed in the ground there's like a manhole in the ground. So we lifted the manhole up, and it was an entrance into the catacombs, like through a vent.
Wow.
And we used to go down there, and who's the bravest to go down.
I bet that was spooky, John. I bet that was spooky.
So that was like 40 years ago, Paul. It weren't recently. That was 40 years ago. But I think they've put a bit more security on the vent now, so you can't really go all the way in. But yeah,
as you say, this church that we see here, which is, like you say, 17th century, it's built on an ancient foundation. So the actual crypt would probably go back to the medieval period. You're talking 1280. Who was on the throne in 1280? I think we're going back to Edward I there. It was the time of the Crusades. It was the time of the war against William Wallace in Scotland. I mean, it's a time of knights on horses with shining armor. So they're buried in that crypt. So it's just fantastic for a kid to go and enjoy that. But what I would say about churches as well, you talked about the poppies there before, and just remembering our fallen heroes. It's good, as I said, when I prayed before, to give thanks for all the blessings we receive, not only now, but the sacrifices of the people in the past. All that we have today has come from our ancestors who worked hard, who fought hard, and who loved this nation and loved the people of this nation and tried to build it up to give them a better future. And when you remember, go back to Remembrance Sunday, or when you go to a service in the church, it's about giving thanks. You know, a sense of gratitude. Everyone's got this sense of entitlement now. You know, we're entitled to this, we're entitled to that. But it's good actually to say thank you for all we've received from our ancestors. And this is what one of the roles the churches have.
So that's our local central church. Next week and other weeks, I'll pick something else that's local, religious and historic in Oldham, and we'll talk about that again. Because there's quite a few places that are very historic. But yeah, so welcome to NHP UK TV on a Sunday with the main man, Paul Rimmer. Honestly, when I found out Paul had run in the mayoral elections in Liverpool, I was like, what? That's like I just know what Liverpool and the Merseyside are like, the left and stuff like that. And running as a mayor is like it's awesome. And didn't you run twice, Paul?
I ran twice for mayor. I got 2,000 plus votes, and had a big impact on the debates on the local radio. I really gave Joe Anderton hell, you know. And but I stood also for police commissioner, and I got over 7,000 votes. And because I exposed, I mean, the Liverpool fans yesterday were saying F the Tories, but the truth was it was Labour who ditched the Hillsborough inquiry. They reduced it to a scrutiny, and they did the cover up. It was Tony Blair and the local Labour MPs, and the media were involved in that. And we exposed that, and we caused a real stink about the nature of the cover-up, because it was a conspiracy to suppress what really happened. And it was the Labour Party who were responsible. So it's not F the Tories, it's F them all, because none of them cared about it. Now, sadly, yesterday, the Liverpool fans were, some Liverpool fans were booing the national anthem. There's a big sort of Irish Republican influence now in Liverpool fan base. And they've got to stop that. It's really odious, because you just talked about the war memorial there. Those lads gave their lives for this country, and that anthem means something to them. And you're spitting on their graves, and it's not on. The Liverpool fans have got to stop this. I can understand that they're anti-establishment. I can understand that they feel that Liverpool has been put down in the past. Well, Liverpool's a great city. I mean, it's been booming the last 10 years, and you know, it's a real party city now. I mean, yesterday in the cup final, the pubs were bouncing, you know, and we've got the European Cup final to look forward to. We've got Everton today for keeping up. So there's a lot happening in this city. So I think we need to be more positive, let go of the past, and let's look to the future. And we don't have to vote Tory, we don't have to vote Labour, because there's a new kid on the block, the National Housing Party, and it's the hope of the future, you know.
Well, I hope so, Paul. But I just want everywhere I look in politics, I see that it's influenced by people who are not in politics, like money, big money influences our politicians and stuff like that. And I don't see any loyalty. Richie Sunak is trying to get an American passport. He's got dual citizenship. He can't even use a card machine to pay for his fuel, and he's doing he's doing all the finances for the British people. There's no loyalty there in it. If he was British, he had a British passport, and he only had a British passport, I might think he was loyal. But he doesn't look like he's going to stay in Britain.
They're not based anymore, are they, John?
No.
They used to be in communist Russia. They used to call them ruthless cosmopolitans, and that's essentially what they are. They don't belong to the nation. They're not part of our collective identity. They're just there to develop their own careers. Look at this Rishi Sunak, all of them, and Priti Patel, and who's the guy who's running the health system, Sajid Javid. They're just here to develop their own lives and their own agendas. They've got no loyalty to this country. They're not rooted. They're not based here. This is what I like about yourself, John, and about Pat McGuinness, who found the National Housing Party. You're really based guys. You're just ordinary working class guys who love this country, totally committed to this country, and speak common sense. And that's what we need in this country. People who are willing to speak common sense. Because this whole woke agenda, I mean, it's taking control of our education system and now our health system, and it's warped. And people are very disturbed by it. So if you can have a few people speaking common sense, I think it'll be very attractive, John.
Yeah. During the election, I come across, I put a leaflet through a door, and a girl, you know, she might have been like mid-20s or something, jumped out. I'm not having, don't post this piece of bleep, bleep, bleep through my letterbox. And, you know, I never swore at her. And I just turned around to her and said, how do you want me to talk to you? Do you want me to talk to you like you just talked to me? Yeah. Or, you know, like, will you have a discussion with me? I don't like this woke thing because we get cancelled for our views. And I don't believe that men should go into women's spaces. And she just looked at me a bit funny. And then I said, adult human female. That's what I said. And but I didn't raise my voice and I never shouted at her. But by the end of the 2-minute conversation, she'd settled down a bit and then apologised for screaming at me in the first place, Paul.
That's
nice. You know what I mean? She apologised because I said sensible things. I said, you know, like I was trying to explain to her how I see the world, you know what I mean, and what I want. And I said women should have their own spaces as well as men. I don't want to be sharing toilets with women in gender neutral thing or whatever. I don't want this. And but yeah, so it were only her really. I haven't had much. I haven't had any bad attitude or anything really off anybody in the area where I'm running.
Getting into that toilet issue, John. I mean, because I work in bars and pubs and clubs and stuff, the end of the night I have to clear out the toilet, make sure there's no one in the toilets. You go in the men's toilets and it's a mess and it stinks. And you go into the women's toilets and it's like a salon. It smells of perfume. Everything's in the place. And the idea of putting those two toilets together has got to be the most insane thing on this planet, you know?
It is. The local crematorium that's in my ward, Hollingwood, which is the same crematorium that my family members have been cremated, friends have been cremated. It's our local crematorium, and they're changing the toilets to gender neutral. And I just did a little video and said, if you've asked everyone in the area, because you should be really asking me, because my dad, my cousin, my uncle, they've all been here, you know, and you should ask me. Or have you just done it because it's the right thing to do? You know, that's what I've said, you know, because it's a now thing to do. And I don't think they've asked anyone. I think they've done it because it's like the now thing to do. But we'll have to see how long it lasts, because I can see that within, if it's still there, and if they are going to go ahead with these gender neutral toilets, I've got a year to my next election, and I'm hoping in that year they will be back to normal toilets and not gender neutral. That's what Big John's saying.
It's like a group of deranged people have taken power, and they want to make the rest of us deranged. They want to spoil our lives. I mean, the most bizarre thing is when you see these transgender men participating in women's sports, and they're a foot bigger and the shoulders are 2 foot wider, and this is supposed to be an equal event for people. And the commentators won't even point it out. And it's like the emperor's got no clothes, you know. It's up to a little kid to say, Dad, this is crazy. This is totally back crazy, you know. Shit crazy. It's got to stop, hasn't it, John?
It has, but how powerful that movement is that even the real women aren't saying anything. The ones who are competing right now in athletics, they're not saying anything because they know if they do, it'll end up no career. They'll get cancelled. End of their track and field career. And there is people speaking up about it, like Sharon Davis, ex-swimmer Sharon Davis, very vocal about it. J.K. Rowling as well, she's very vocal about it. And I mean, J.K. Rowling, the fact that she's got money and is that rich and because she's done all these books is the only reason they can't cancel her. It's the only reason. If she was just a regular woman who lived wherever, who'd just done a couple of books, weren't that famous, she'd have been cancelled. But
the problem is, in this country, there's no real political force pushing back against it. That's why we need new voices. That's why the NHP is so important, because we can't rely on the old parties. They just submit, don't they? They just bow down to this pressure. Now, I think there's something called a Christian Institute, which campaigns against these woke agendas very effectively in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. And that's that. And there's another one called Christian Watch. And there's a few fringe political parties. And that's all I can think about, that actually standing up to this agenda. But in America, it's a totally different story. In America, the Republican Party is fighting this tooth and nail. And that's where the battle's going to be won and lost. And I think they're getting in front there, the Republican Party. They're starting to win this debate. But what we've got to be careful of is that we're not sectarian and we're not harsh in our judgment. That, we're sympathetic to people and we embrace a wide constituency of people. We don't exclude people, but we insist on basic decency and basic common sense, which has always existed in our nation. This has always been a decent country, Britain. It's been a country where people have obeyed the law and have allowed live and let live, do unto others as they would do unto you. And it's prospered because of that. Now, if we're going to get to the situation where we're imposed upon and we're being oppressed and people are telling us to do things we don't want to do, it's not pleasant. This cancel culture is not pleasant. And we have to push back against it. And, all credit to you guys for taking a stand. I mean, I saw you stood in the local elections recently. I know Pat in London got 214 votes, which for a first time out for a new party, I think he stood as an independent, actually, didn't he? Because he couldn't get the party label on. But it's an outstanding result. And yourself, John, I think you got 147, was it?
No, what, 174.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, I've stood in local elections and they're tough. It's hard to get over 100 votes if you're not Labour or the established parties. So to come out with those votes, that's a blessing. That shows that you're moving in the right direction, John.
Well, Pat's there was 10 nominees on Pat's thing. 10. There were only 6 on mine, and he had to go against like two Labour, 2 Conservative, 2 whatever. But yeah, he did really well, getting 200 odd votes. Can't believe it. And I mean, with myself, I only had a month's campaigning because I waited for the party name, so it was a bit rushed. But the thing is about the area where I'm running, Paul, is it's not like I don't know the area, right? It's not like it's somewhere in my town where I never go. It's not like that. Out of the 10 nominees on my list, 9 of them I've known for minimum 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, long time for it, yeah. And obviously the crematorium, there is a main road that goes through with some pubs on, which I've drunk in all these pubs in the past, as well as lately and stuff like that. Got lots of friends who live in that area.
I hope you bought around for everyone, John.
Pardon?
Hope you bought it around for everyone.
No, not everybody. Not yeah. I'm not rich. When I get my 10 grand, what my money from council, I'll do it then.
Just buy them a half, just to say, lads, you can have a half each, half a lager.
But it's been good. We've got a few things lined up. There's a few people I want to chat with who do stuff to do with one lad as a charity that helps disabled people. And then another young lad at the beginning of the lockdown, he's only a teenager. He started to do things for people because he couldn't get out, doing old biddies gardens and grass cutting. And he tries to do stuff with youngsters as well, those who were in junior school who couldn't go in for whatever reason and over the lockdown. So Joe is called, Joe Flowery. And so I'm going to chat with him because, I mean, the young teenagers and things like that is a big thing with me. I do a lot to do with crime, antisocial behaviour, and obviously it's knowing the kids and knowing what they want and how they feel is important. So, you know, I've got a long way to go, but I'm enjoying it, Paul, and I'm confident, I am really confident. And I've always been, I know my own skills and I know how confident I can be and stuff like that. So,
John, that's absolutely brilliant, because when I was campaigning, the reason I got thousands of votes in Liverpool is I made myself visible. I went out on the street and I chatted to people. I had a leaflet which is shared with people. And when people hear you addressing them heart to heart, it makes a big impact. When they see you on the street talking, knocking on doors, get involved with local initiatives like you just said there. People love that. I mean, in a sense, the best way to campaign is to become a hub for the local community. So they see you as a focal point. I mean, where I live here, Admiral Street, the police put the gay flag above the police station. This is when they first started doing this. And they took down the Union flag. It was a bit like the fans booing the national anthem yesterday. I wasn't happy with that. You know, that Union flag means a lot to people. And to take it down and put up the rainbow flag without consulting the local community, it was a bit of an insult, you know. So I went in there and said, look, I don't think this is right. I think you're going to upset a lot of people. And I think you should think about this, whether it's the right thing to do. I walked out to the police station. 2 coppers ran after me, grabbed hold of me, and said, you're being arrested for homophobia. I said, you're joking. I said, this is like living in a communist state. This is like totalitarianism. They locked me up in a cell for 6 hours, put me through it. But you know what they did, the scoundrels? They lied in the interview. They said, I said this, I said that. And I said, look, guys, there was a CCTV camera there, and it would have recorded this, what I said. So you're going to be found out for these lies. You know what they did, John? They let me go, dropped the case. But I went to the local media and created a stink about it, and they got a massive response. Because this is the thing, these people just want to ride roughshod over the others' sensitivities and opinions. It's their way or it's no way. I mean, if they want to fire a gay flag above a gay club or something, that's up to them. But a police station represents the whole community. And, you know, I live in Toxteth, and we got like a strong Christian community here, strong Muslim community, an old Jewish community, and they weren't happy about this gay flag being flown. So you see how it upsets people, and they take no consideration for other people. And this isn't the role of the police. The police aren't there to get involved with political campaigns. They're there to serve the whole community, and I let them know that. And that's why I got over 7,000 votes, because people said, good on you for doing that. But there was a price to pay, you know. They threatened me, they locked me up, they tried to charge me, but they had to drop her in the end. And you know what I did, John? I counterattacked. I found out that they did not have the legal right to fly that flag above the police station. Because you can't just fly anything above a police station. You got to have special permission. And I took them to court. And I got a court case going. And I got the Chief Constable of Liverpool into the court, the Crown Court. And the government had to intervene. Eric Pickles, who was the Home Secretary, he had to pass an emergency law through Parliament with the support of Labour and the Lib Dems to make the gay flag an official police flag. So I couldn't prosecute the Chief Constable. But that was the basis on which I stood for Police Commissioner. That was the start of my campaign. But it went a long way. I mean, it was talked about on the floor of the House of Commons, and all I did was walk into the local police station and say, what's that flag flying above? And this is the thing, from small acorns, mighty oaks can grow. I mean, you founded this new party, the National Housing Party. It's a small acorn, but it's a fresh voice, John. And it's a voice, you know, you're not sectarian, you're not extremist, you're just a common sense party, and it's what people are looking for, John. It's exactly what people are looking for.
It's mad. I mean, the whole woke agenda, and it's only a minority of people. It's not like the majority of the UK, let's say 70% of the UK, agree with this flag. No, it's like 2% or 3%, and they're control. I mean, talking to the police and calling them out, I'll always show my face, and I've been to the Mayor's question time a couple of times, and I absolutely give it to the police for things that they do and stuff like that. But it's up to us to call them out and to point out to them the hypocrisy. So next time I see the police, I'm going to be saying, How come when, like, I'm on a demonstration, you get involved when it's a political demonstration? You shouldn't be getting involved. You shouldn't have that. You shouldn't say to me, you vote this or vote that. That's not what the police do. It's not your job. And I'm going to call them out on this because they do it a lot and they get away with it. And we had trouble with the police with our mate Kim and Anna Roffery. And she's lied to the police. She's not gone the correct route. Instead of when she claims that there was a crime, Anna Roffery, she didn't phone the police force. She phoned the chief superintendent, whose number she had in her phone. Yeah. And to me, that's not the right route. If she's gonna say the crime's been committed, she's got to go through the procedure of reporting it to the police, and it doesn't mean you phone the chief inspector or the chief superintendent up.
This is the problem. The politicians, John, abuse their power and they intimidate the police. The police defer to the politicians far too easily. You know, because ultimately the politicians are paying their wages and in control of them. But they've got it. You see, the police, I don't know what their constitution is. A lot changed under Tony Blair. He dropped a lot of this. But the police used to take an oath to serve God and the crown first and foremost, i.e. not to be politically biased or serve political interests, but to serve the interest of the whole people, the whole nation. Put that first and put decent morality first, you know. And the police seem to have dropped that. They've started to become very politically divisive, and it's not good. I think by pushing these agendas, the police have lost a lot of respect from the general public, respect they need. I mean, I was down in London when BLM were attacking the cenotaph and so on. We went down to protect the monuments. And the police were scared of BLM. They were running away from them. I thought, there's something wrong here. I mean, for me, that's a sign that the police have lost their soul. They've sold their souls to politicians, and they haven't got the inner strength and the inner courage to stand up for what is right. Because you'll only get that, John, when you're in line with God. I mean, I'm a man of faith, you know that. You've got to be on the right road. If you're doing things which are wrong, you'll become very weak internally because you'll doubt yourself. But if you know it says in the Bible, the righteous are as bold as lions. And you need that sense of right and wrong. I always say, I've been arrested by the police 3 times on political charges. And I always say to the police, do you believe in God? And they take a step back. Why are you asking us that? Because I want to know, do you believe in right and wrong and good and evil? Because if you don't, you're not doing your job properly. And it really shakes them up, John. It really puts them on a defensive.
Good afternoon, Danny Simpson in the chat, Freedom for Britain. I hope you're all right. Another lad who's successfully done his 3rd campaign running as a councillor in Hoyland, Milton Ward, and I was fortunate enough that last year he invited me over, and I was an election agent. I got into the count. I've seen the process of the elections and stuff like that. And I mean, I always get people, Paul, saying it's all rigged. It's all rigged. Well, it's up to us to call them out if it is rigged. It's up to us to make. We've left it to elite people to do all our parties and be councillors, but now the working class are waking up like me, and it's up to us to call them out. And the simple thing is, if we've had an increase in postal votes, is there a security man at the post office where they all go to first? You know, just a general question like that, because we've had an increase in postal votes. If I see where something's not sealed or something's not checked, it's up to me to email the Electoral Commission. And Daniel does this. I know that Danny does this. Afternoon, Durham Fox. Daniel does this. If he sees something, he'll email up. So it's up to us to call them out. So we can't. And the thing is, Paul, I always say, people say these things, oh, this is corrupt, that corrupt. I said, well, have you ever worked in an election? No. We ever been a vote agent? No. So have you ever, been in the counter when they're opening the sealed boxes? No. So how can people say that it's rigged? You know what I mean? If they've never...
Well, UKIP showed what can be done, you know. UKIP got nearly 5 million votes in a general election. And really, they'd have got a lot more if David Cameron hadn't promised a referendum in 2015. That's what saved the Tories. But of course, he lost that referendum. And that's a sign that the vote does count, because he lost that referendum. I mean, I always say, I mean, people think Liverpool's a left-wing city, but during the Brexit campaign, it was huge. The Brexit support in Liverpool was huge. 80,000 Scousers voted to leave the EU. And it was only the students and the immigrants who voted for Remain, which meant that Liverpool voted Remain. If you'd just gone with the Scousers, it'd have been 50-50. So it just shows you you make a huge impact at the polls. Now, the thing is, this postal vote is corrupt. It needs pruning back. It used to be for someone who was sick or disabled, who couldn't make it to the polling station. But now it's being abused. And I know Labour Party candidates and campaigners who get to use the postal vote and get whole families. But one person in that family will vote for the whole family, maybe 6 or 7 votes, or they'll get a mosque or whatever to vote for the whole community. And this is against our electoral system. It has to be pruned back. It has to be stopped. But you can still make a huge impact either way. If you can get your voice out there, and people can hear what you say, and it chimes with them, you can get a heck of a big vote, and you can cross the line. So I would say to everybody, don't give up on electoral politics, because it's still our best chance to bring common sense back to this country.
Yeah, you're right about the postal voting fraud. Peterborough's a big place for it, but the simple fact is, right, and another fact why we don't say a lot is that there's been a lot of, let's say, Muslims involved in the postal voting fraud, but we're not allowed to say anything. If you say that, you're racist. And
well, the weird thing is, you get in Muslim areas where the vote is like 99% for Labour. It's like something out of the communist bloc, you know. You think that's not valid. We're supposed to vote, John. This is in our democratic system as individuals, not as a people group, but as individuals, and we express our own opinions in the privacy of the ballot box, you know, in the polling booth, put into the ballot box, so every vote counts. That's what one man, one vote means. Everyone has to have their own individual decision, look at their own conscience, and then make their mind up. Now, the idea that one community is voting as a bloc, that's against our system. That's undemocratic.
Yeah, well, UKIP got a bit of traction. Pre-referendum, they did a leaflet in Oldham that called out the postal voting fraud. I'm going to try and... here it is. Here it is.
The truth is, to win a local election, to win a seat, you might need, say, 1,000 votes. I mean, but the turnout's so low. I mean, the turnout's under 30% in most wards. And so if you've got a decent campaign, I remember when the BNP used to win a lot of council seats, that was because they would simply get over 1,000 votes. That's all you need to get elected.
How to win an election in Oldham. The wards in Oldham each contain approximately 8,000 residents. To be elected, a council needs the votes of just over 1,000 people. If you haven't got quite enough support here are a few tricks that will help you push you over the finish line. Add extra votes to the register, impersonation, steal postal votes, counting on white folk not voting, and they got in a bit of shit for it, but this is Oldham. There's
realistic, John.
There's articles in newspapers from different years pointing all these things out that went on in Oldham, but nobody says anything and nobody does anything mainly because it's a certain party or a certain section of the community, and it's got to be stopped. It's got to stop. It really has got to stop, and it's ridiculous.
Well, the Tories don't seem to use this postal vote so much. Although what was surprising was in Harrow and London, the Hindu vote all went for the Tories as a block vote. So I think they're catching on to this postal block voting. But I think it's in their interest to scrap it all together, to say, look, if you want a postal vote, there's got to be a reason, either a doctor's note or something of that nature. Otherwise, you have to go to the polling station and vote in person. That's the only legitimate way to vote, as far as I'm concerned.
And I mean, in Oldham, it's continuous. Every year there's something going on. And last year, one of my friends in another area called Coldus, when he went to vote, and he was intimidated before he even got to the door of the polling station. He was only walking up by the candidates who were there, all practically fighting each other to get people to vote for him. You know, and you're just like, what's going on? Like, you know, how come you have to be like this? I didn't fight anyone. I didn't have to. I stood outside the polling stations on polling day, talked to people when they were coming in and out. Never demanded they vote for me or anything or out like that. But these are what other politicians do in our town in Oldham. And
obviously, you've stood locally, John, and local campaigns are going to be the essence, aren't they? The National Housing Party. But what about how are you going to develop this party? What's your vision? I mean, in terms of developing policies, in terms of attracting new members, in terms of building up a party structure through the country. What's your ambitions here, John? I mean, you're the leader, aren't you, of the National Housing Party?
Well, I mean, I want to go as big as UKIP. I wish I could go. I want to go as big as UKIP. Our policies, we're going to develop our policies. But obviously, housing has got to be one of the primary things. And if we look at other political parties and mainstreams and other independent parties, they all more or less have got housing policies, you know, to sort our housing out. But I mean,
you know, the thing with housing, John, and this really strikes me, like I'm walking around my local area and in Liverpool, and I'm seeing newly arrived immigrants, could be from anywhere, Africa, Eastern Europe, Southern Asia. They're getting prime council houses, and local people have waited for years, have struggled to get these houses, and they're just being pushed off the list. And you think that's not right. There's something wrong there. What the local politicians are saying to the local people is, we don't care about you. We put others before you. It's like a father saying to his own family, look, I don't care about you, my family. I'm going to give all the money to another family. It's not on. It's just not on, because the local taxpayers, the local ratepayers or whatever, it's their money that have built these council houses. And they should be for the local community first. I mean, that to me seems common sense and fair. The idea that you can fly into this country, claim asylum, and then be given a council house with a garden back and front ahead of 14,000 people in a queue. That's just not fair to me. That's just not equity.
Well, I've got a friend called Bernie, and her house, she lost her house in a sinkhole disaster in the RBA area of Manchester. And on her street, there was an asylum seeker and a family. And when they had to abandon the street and rehouse all these people. And he was dead glad and happy that was getting a nice house in St. Helens. And he had a car and all that lot. Now, obviously, my mate Bernie has lived in this area all her life. What? And she's supposed to move to another town and accept an house there or stuff like that. But no, they didn't. And they left all the homeowners on this street in a call centre at the end of the night when they came on the news saying they'd rehoused everyone. They'd rehoused all the council residents, but those who owned their own homes just left, didn't do nothing. And so going forward, we managed to get to a MERS question time. We pulled Andy Burnham about it publicly. He's got involved. He's had some meetings with Bernie going forward to sort the issues out with the housing. But yeah, it was them first and Bernie last. And it was like that for everyone on her street. And they'd all lived there for like over 30 years, you know.
It's because we haven't got a voice. This is what the National Housing Party can give. Ordinary people a voice, just to be considered. It's like you're not even considered anymore. And this is like a slap in the face. And people have started to accept it because they can't see any hope. I know it's the NHP, the National Housing Party, but it could be the National Hope Party, giving hope to ordinary people that their voices can be heard again. And what a vehicle that is, John. What an opportunity you've got there to build a party from this. So how can people contact you, or have you got? I know you've got a Twitter account, haven't you? The National Housing Party. You've got an email address.
Not forget the Twitter account. My email address is at the bottom. john.lawrence at nationalisingparty.uk and patrick.mcginnis at nationalisingparty.uk. Good afternoon, sir. Steve Laws, thank you, mate. Thanks for them words the other day. Steve's there now. Steve, who running the by-election in the South End for UKIP, getting into the voting there, and he got a few hundred votes. But, I mean, the more of us who stand up, I think, is going to be a lot better. And what I think, Paul, I think normal people will want to get involved now with politics. I believe that for a long time, the like in the old days, you used to have money. You used to be able to need money, didn't you, to run as a councillor and stuff like that. And they've sort of like kept that image, but it isn't. Anyone can be a councillor. You can be a woman. You can be a man. You can be working class. You can be a doctor. You can be a nurse. You can be a fireman. You can be anybody can be a councillor. But they've sort of like kept it to like the elite or only are doing it. But that's wrong. That we need more working class people in government and in council positions, and I think we'll get a very better and more democratic councils. And
well, that was the role of the Labour Party in the past, John. The Labour Party was supposed to be the voice of the working man and the ordinary people, but the Labour Party now is just a vehicle for the public sector interests and vested interest and big corporations, and they don't speak for the ordinary people at all. They speak for the people who have got power, and you can see that by the decisions they make. And it's like they almost despise ordinary people now. And like this campaign to stop immigration, it's nothing to do with like being hostile to any particular group or to be sectarian. It's just common sense. Our population has surged to almost 70 million. We need to stabilize that population, and we need to integrate as a society. My fear is this society now is splintering into different groups with different interests, and they're coming and some groups are become very assertive, and they want their interests to be met. And it's like the ordinary people, they're not assertive enough. They're just ignored. We don't want to be sectarian. It's not going to be based on religion or race. It's simply going to be based on common sense, on doing the right thing for all the ordinary people of this country. In a sense, the disprivileged, the underprivileged, that's what we all are now, or those whose voices have been silenced. You're given a voice here, John, but there's silence. You're given a voice for ordinary people. And it's up to ordinary people to say, look, yeah, we want a chance to express ourselves. We'll get on board this. We'll back it. Now, we don't want no extremism. We don't want no hostility to any particular group. We want to just speak into these issues. Housing being a crucial one. Employment's another one. Council culture's another one. There are so many important issues, but we need to stop immigration. This idea that people can just turn up in boats on the shores of this country, or at airports, or at railway stations, and plug into our benefit system, get our social housing, get a vote, which dilutes our actual political power, and is wrong. To me, it's like Britain's being stolen. It's being taken off us. It's being given to somebody else, and we're not allowed to say, "Hey, there's something not right in this." I mean, we've seen immigrants come in the past, in the post-war period, a lot of guys came over from the West Indies and integrated into the society. And that's been a success story. And there's other immigrant groups who have come into this society and have managed to contribute. But the numbers are a key factor. We don't want to be overwhelmed. We're seeing now, like London, our capital city. We don't really feel. I don't know. How do you ever go down to London, John? It feels like a foreign city now. Why? How dare they give our cities away? And we've got Sadiq Khan, and he's like, he's got his block vote supporting him, and he doesn't listen to ordinary people. He's got his own wacky agenda, and he's pushing his agenda, and it's not what we want. And people should be very scared about what's happening, because the people who are taking over are not savoury people, and they're not going to lead us into a better society. They're not going to bring peace into this country.
None of them are loyal. Straight away, none of them are loyal. I don't trust anybody in the government. None of them are loyal to Britain or England. None of them are loyal to the working class. They're all just trying to screw us out for as much money as they can. I just want to say afternoon to Horace in the chat. Fat Girth as well. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. And yeah, with more people need to stand up. I'm hoping to get candidates, local people who live in Oldham who aren't political, to run as candidates. And all I said to them is, you just need one skill. Do you get on with people, and do you talk to your community and stuff like that? Do you interact with your community? If you interact with the community, that's it. You can be a councillor, because that interaction will bring people together. You can solve things. You can solve issues on your estate if you interact and you come together with other members of your community. I've got a couple of plans on stuff to do. Pat will be seeing them when he comes up, and to start on for this year, and stuff to help the local community and stuff like that. So that's all you need. You don't have to be posh or anything like that. But you know what was really good was when I was went to the count. So I went in the count. So Jim McManaman would have been there. Deborah Abrahams, everyone, the council leader, all the councillors. I walked in, Angela Rayner with her, and then the lad who was in with me, Peter, he went like that. We just walked past her, and I bet her eyes were burning in the back of my head. But you know what? I've said a lot of controversial things, Paul, but nobody phones me up. No one messages me. Nobody emails me. And I'm constantly saying, giving me email out, my address is public knowledge. I didn't hide my address when I was running as a candidate. It's public knowledge. My phone number's on all the leaflets. And I said to people, if you disagree or you don't go with anything that I said, please contact me, and we'll talk about it, and we'll discuss it, and we'll debate me. Nobody said
Excellent.
Nothing. You know what I mean? And I say this all the time, me. You only have to email me or phone me up, and I'll start a conversation. I'm not. If you phone me up and you disagree with what I say about woke things, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to shout at you. I'm not going to slam the phone down. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to debate with you. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'll tell you how, all women feel. I'll tell you how wrong it is that a man should be in a woman's sport. I'm going to talk, but, I'm not going to cancel you. You know what I mean? Another thing I don't do, I'm not a troller. I know a lot of people troll this, and I've had a lot of attacks, and I had to drop my Twitter a couple of weeks ago because I've gone on, and somebody who's to do with Oldham, who's against me, don't agree with me, brought up my mum and said something like I'm abusing a system by using my mum and stuff like that. And I just deleted my Twitter for a couple of weeks because that's like the ultimate that, my mum's not involved in anything I do, but I do look after my mum. She's got Alzheimer's, you know what I mean? Otherwise, she'd have to go into a council home. They'd have to be paying 5 times more money than what they pay me now looking after my mum. So I'm doing the council a goddamn favour the public in Oldham, I'm doing them a favour, because if I put my mum in an home, that means Oldham's council tax is going to go up. So
that's
what
disgraceful, that, John, because it's so virtuous what you're doing with your mother, looking after her, all that sacrifice of time and effort. But it's from love, innit, that you look after her. I can sense that. But people to try and besmirch you using that, that's really low, that, John. That really sickens me. But what is interesting, John, did you get any media exposure at all? I know the mainstream media now is a little bit dead, and the local papers used to be very lively, you know. And when I stood for mayor and police commissioner and so on, the Echo was the big vehicle. But now people don't read local papers, do they?
No. Well, we did. I'll just get a banner picture up.
What about radio, John? Did you get invited onto BBC Radio, local radio, or anything?
No, not yet, not yet. But I mean, next year when I get a seat, we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
we did a couple of banner drops. We've had a particular banner, and it's exit the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. Now, at one point, there were 3 of these banners going round. Different groups have had them, yeah. And the banners have been shown in London, Dover more than once, Manchester. The banners have been all over the country. And Pat did a banner drop, or was part of a banner drop in London. And it happened to be 2 weeks after the refugees died in the boat. Yeah, and we put the banner drop up. Now, that got the local papers, and got the local papers, but like, and the Electoral Commission even pulled us on it, yeah. And then I just said to the Electoral Commission, I sent them all the links. I said, that banner has been all over the country, so why are you pulling us for it now, you know, and stuff like that. And apparently Sadiq Khan had said something about the banner drop we did at the Blackwall Tunnel. And a couple of weeks later, Stand Up to Racism did a banner drop on the same bridge. Now, apparently, so they was looking to try and charge somebody, but they did the same thing that we did, you know. So if anyone would have charged someone, they would have had to be charged, but only a little bit. But and then we've had a bit of, we've been in the Hope Not Hate report that we was mentioned in there, but they didn't even mention that I was party leader. You know,
they will try and smear you. These left-wing groups, if they see you as a threat in any way, they will go all out to smear you and intimidate you, which is really sad. But the thing is, it's just to stay within sanity, within common sense. I mean, the idea that we leave these refugee conventions seems to me common sense, because they're being abused on a massive scale, and we're paying an enormous price for this. Someone has to point out the obvious. And that's all the National Housing Party should do. Point out the obvious. This refugee convention is being massively abused, and given the nature of it, we can't correct the abuse. So the only sensible procedure now is to leave this UN refugee convention, because it's not about refugees, it's about destroying national borders. And having a national border is the basis of any nation. If we want to build a harmonious nation in Britain, we need a strong border. That's common sense, and people recognize that. Because if people can walk into your country and abuse your country, you haven't got a country.
Common sense. Did someone call? Good afternoon, Samson. So yeah, this was the this was the second banner drop they did, and they didn't really say nothing too much about it's okay to preserve white nations, but exit the 1951 UF, that got a lot of like traction, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, they do try to set a lot of things, and all these people who say stuff against me, they're all faceless people. So, I mean, if you're gonna troll me like that, you've already lost. Because I'm a real person, me. I don't hide anything. I don't hide where I live. I don't hide what I do. You know, I'm a real person, and I've always been a real person, Paul. And I think that's important as well, that people are going to vote for you when they see that you are a real and honest person. I really do think that goes a long way with getting your votes. And when I was campaigning, I pulled up to a guy. He's over 50. I said to him, I'm running in the elections. He said he hadn't voted for a while. He talked to me. He said a couple of things, and I talked to him back. And then at the end of it, he went, I'm voting for you because, like, you're just honest. I can tell the way you said these things. So I'm going to vote for you. My missus will as well.
It is very attractive. Honesty and reality and just being a normal person is very attractive to the electorate. But I'm going to have to leave you now, John. And I came in with a prayer. I'm going to leave you with a blessing now. I'm going to ask the Lord to bless the National Housing Party, to bless you and Pat, to look after you, to prosper you in what you're doing, to bring people alongside you, to help you and to develop you, to provide the resources to build a strong party, to amplify your voice so that people around the nation know that you exist and hear what you stand for, and to give you success in the future. I'll just finish with a piece of scripture. The Lord has plans for us, not to prosper us, not to harm us, not to do us damage, but to give us a hope and a future, to prosper us. So that's my prayer for the National Housing Party and for you as well, John. And God bless your mum as well. Comfort her at this time.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Look at that. She's got the Union Jack hat on. Are you waving, Mum? Are you having a wave?
No.
Yeah, have a wave then.
God bless her.
Having a wave.
Cheers, John. Speak soon.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much.
God bless.
So it's going to be a regular thing, ladies and gentlemen. 2 p.m. Sunday. Get an hour with me and Paul. At the beginning of the program, I just showed up about our local parish church, where if I couldn't count how many weddings, christenings, funerals, services, I couldn't count how many I've been to. It's our central local church. So obviously it would have been used a lot. And even though I'm not a practicing Christian, I went to Sunday school, and the people who I interacted with when I was growing up were Christians, which has made me the person I am now. I don't believe that we should be using violence to solve our electoral problems. I think we should be going down the voting route. I'm against capital punishment. There is a fine line, though, between pedos and stuff like that. But, these are the values I got brought up with. So Paul will be on every week. We'll talk about different issues and stuff like that. We'll be live on Thursday, NHPUK TV, Thursday night from 7 p.m, talking about national stories. I have got a couple of stories lined up that I never got in last week that I want to talk about. But remember, there is no loyalty in people. There isn't. There's no loyalty. There's no loyalty in the people in the government. How can we trust them to be our government when they're not loyal to England, Britain, or the Union or whatever? But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Thank you, Mum. Go in now. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you all soon.